Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that you can stream right now on both Disney Plus and Hulu. That is the film Flamin' Hot, the story about the creator of the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Um, this is a very fun movie. So for those who don't know what Flamin' Hot even is about, basically there is a Frito-Lay janitor, like way back in the day, I want to say like the 70s and 80s. He came up with the concept of Flamin' Hot Cheetos after kind of working at Frito-Lay for a while, noticing they didn't have a lot of spicy flavors, that they had a lot of boring stuff like Cool Ranch, regular, sweet and salty, tortillas, chips, and stuff like that. And so he really didn't see a lot of stuff that his culture has been loving his entire life. He grew up with a lot of spicy foods, a lot of things like burritos and Mexican rice and stuff like that. And so he really kind of wanted to bring a flavor that he was always familiar with his whole life, along with his, Mexican and Latina communities and bring it into the Frito Lay chips. And so he basically, him and his wife and his family came up with several different kind of different flavors, and they eventually settled on a chip that they called the Flamin' Hot chip, and they used it, specifically for Cheetos and some other Frito Lay related items. And so the story's kind of about how Richard Martinez, who was this janitor for Frito Lay, how he kind of got this flavor up and going, how he got it, in development and on conveyor belts and into the stores for everybody, and how he kind of convinced the CEO of Frito Lay in particular to really kind of try out this flavor and that it's really worth his time and it would really be worth the money and it would really represent his community very well. And so Flamin' Hot kind of focuses on the story of how Richard Martinez ultimately went from a Frito Lay janitor to a business executive, and a business executive that happened to bring one of Frito Lay's most successful flavors in the Flamin' Hot line of chips. But overall, guys, I really, really like this movie. Eva Longoria from, I believe, Desperate Housewives and some other TV shows and movies that you might recognize. This is her directorial debut, and I gotta say, if she's gonna direct more movies from here on out, I'm all for it because in this movie she has a very, very unique voice. So let's immediately kind of go over some positives and negatives about this movie. So going back to what I was just saying, one of my first positives of this movie is Eva Longoria has a very unique cinematic voice in this movie. One thing she does that's very kind of fun and unique in this movie is she'll tell you something as to how something really played out for Richard Martinez, this Frito Lay janitor, and then she'll give you like a dream scenario version of it, so you can kind of see how Richard wished it played out or how he wished that things kind of came through cleaner and stuff like that. And it's kind of hard to say without spoiling certain moments in the movie, but when you see it, you'll know what I mean. There'll be moments that really happen to Richard, and then there'll be scenes where they kind of play like a dream version of it, of how Richard kind of wish it played out, or how he envisioned in his mind like how something behind closed doors that he wasn't there to witness possibly played out in his mind and stuff like that. And so there's just a lot of fun ideas like that. There's even small things where when the CEO of Frito Lay tries out Flamin' Hot Cheetos for the first time, there's like small little, Flamin' Hot, you know how like when you have Flamin' Hot Cheetos, like it's all red on your fingers and stuff like that. Even small details like that to kind of show us that he has tried out these chips already by then and stuff like that. There's just a lot of things that Eva Longoria does with this film that is just a lot of fun like that. So if she decides to direct more movies, I am going to be completely there. I'll be there day one. I absolutely love the way that she directed this movie. Richard Martinez and his wife are kind of the two central characters in this movie. And the two people they got, I believe, I don't know their names off the top of my head right now, but if you go to IMDb, I'm sure it's going to be the two people who are listed first on the cast. The two of them, the actor and the actress they got, had great screen chemistry. They really kind of sell the movie. They really kind of make the movie the way it is, because there really is a lot of moments where it's about Richard and his wife bonding, getting through a tough time. There's a lot of stuff he had to do to kind of get to the success that he had at Frito Lay. So the two of them had great screen chemistry. I really like the actor and the actress they got who played Richard and his wife in this movie. There's also a lot of great underdog and emotional moments throughout this movie. Poor Richard did have to go through quite a lot to get this Frito Lay flavor off the ground. The poor guy, he was bullied around. He was judged by his race. He had to clean toilets, had to clean all this other stuff, and they always kind of punished him in very like savage ways about they had to clean a certain thing in the factory that wasn't going to be fun to clean. And the poor guy had so many moments in his life that really kind of feel like an underdog moment, an emotional moment, and the film really kind of hits on those moments as well. Um, A lot of strong, situations that are thrown at you over this movie. So I really liked those moments in particular in this movie. I thought they really made an impact on me as a viewer. And overall, I liked how the Frito Lay company was depicted in this movie. It was just kind of all the employees kind of know who like what the food chain looks like, and when you're an employee in the company, like you get the CEO, you get all the business executives, you get the people below that, and the people below that, and obviously Richard and his friends are kind of at the very bottom. So the film kind of has fun with that version of the food chain as far as how they view it within the company, and even how Frito Lay is ran, like how they show how the factory works and how the chips get made and stuff like that. And Dennis Haysbert from the Allstate commercials has a role in this movie, a very important role. They show how kind of how his job works and how inspection works in the company. And it was just a really fun way to depict how Frito Lay kind of functioned back in the day, or potentially how they functioned back in the day. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film as well. For my negatives of Flamin' Hot, there's a lot of times where they're trying to show how Richard and his family, how they communicated in Spanish in a lot of these situations, but how the film depicts this is they'll speak in English for a while, then like one or two lines will be in Spanish, and you'll see a subtitle below so you know what they're saying, and then they'll go back to English again. And for me personally, I just kind of assumed the entire runtime of this movie that a lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes whenever Richard was at home and stuff like that, that they were probably speaking in Spanish in those moments. So for the film to kind of remind us in a very unusual way and an unusual shift from English to Spanish, English to Spanish, English to Spanish, it just felt very awkward. It had like a very weird way of doing a dialogue jump. And for me personally, whenever the film does try to do this, it didn't really completely work just because I just kind of assumed as the viewer that a lot of this stuff that happened behind the scenes probably was spoken in Spanish back in the day. So didn't really like how the film depicted that, but it is one of my negatives in this movie. I also thought Act 3 had some elements that were really exaggerated. I know this film kind of did face a little bit of controversy. I guess Richard Martinez did kind of fluff up a little bit of some of the stuff that happened as far as how the Flamin' Hot Cheetos got made and stuff, which is fine. You know, like I said, there's a lot of cool things that Eva Longoria does with reality to dream version of the reality that she plays around with in this movie. So I think she maybe could have played around with that some more, specifically with Act 3 in this movie. Um, there's just a lot of things like sales happening in one neighborhood that happen to be strong, and so that one neighborhood having good sales for Flamin' Hot Cheetos saves the company and stuff. So a lot of hokey stuff like that that happens along the way where I kind of would want to see like the math and the graphs and stuff like that in order to really believe that that really happened. So there's moments like that, like I said, specifically towards the third act of this movie that are just kind of a little roll your eyes and just like, okay, did that really happen and stuff? But do be aware of that. I would say the first two acts are pretty fair. They go from reality to dream sequence pretty fairly. And Act 3 is kind of full on like, okay, is this a dream sequence? Is this a reality thing? And the film kind of has a weird balance towards the end of the movie with regarding that. And also, they also try to show how Richard was understanding business better at the time this was all happening. Him and his wife go to a library and study business books and stuff like that. And unfortunately, when they do kind of show the payoff of him learning the business stuff with promoting and advertising this flamin' hot flavor, I just didn't like how those scenes played out. It was just one of those things where it's like, okay, he learned all this stuff earlier, and now none of it's going to get applied. So it's just one of those things where I don't know if it was just a part of the Flamin' Hot book that Richard Martinez did publish in real life that they had a hard time bringing to the screen or something, but or if there were scenes removed in like the editing process or something like that. But for the most part, the business side of Richard getting into the business part of this situation, I thought was kind of poorly adapted, just mostly in those scenes in particular. But overall, Flamin' Hot, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a really enjoyable movie. I would love to see Eva Longoria direct more things. The actor and actress they got to play Richard and his wife was very strong here. I loved all the underdog and emotional moments in the movie. I liked how the Frito Lay company was depicted and how the inner workings worked out in the company. But like I said, some of the English to Spanish dialogue jumps were pretty awkward. Some of the Act 3 elements do feel very exaggerated and kind of struggled to go from reality to dream version of the reality. It's like I said, some of the business understandings that Richard learns throughout the movie, specifically towards the third act, really don't get applied all that well. So I thought that was one aspect of the story that was kind of weak. 8.5 out of 10 for me, though. I do highly recommend watching Flaming Hot. So if you have Disney Plus or Hulu, make sure to stream this movie. I do highly recommend Flaming Hot. It's an 8.5 out of 10 for me.